morning, my name is Josh from CyclonesOZ, and welcome to your detailed forecast update for November 30, 2024. We've got a lot to get through today, including storms, showers, heavy rainfall across New South Wales and Victoria, some heavy falls, in fact very heavy falls at times across the central Queensland coastline, more severe thunderstorms expected up into the far north of Queensland, and heavy rainfall just in general expected around both the southeast and the far north. We're also going to talk about thunderstorms across interior parts of WA and into the Northern Territory and South Australia too. All of that plus more coming up in today's weather forecast. If you are brand new to the channel, please consider subscribing, but we're going to get stuck straight into things across in New South Wales before heading up into central Queensland. Now, we have had some substantial rainfall accumulations over the past 24 hours across New South Wales, with the heaviest falls being up to 100 millimetres outside of Wollongong. We did expect those locations to pick up the majority of the rainfall, just considering their nature in relation to the coastline and the fact that they're just going to be receiving that steady stream of rainfall, and they sure have picked it up, which is fantastic to see. Again, they did really need that rainfall, so the rainfall there, very welcome indeed. And some good falls also reported over the last 24 hours across interior parts of New South Wales. We've had accumulations between 25 and 60 millimetres, very widespread across the central corridor of the state and up into the northern rivers. Accumulations expected to continue piling on for areas around Dubbo over the coming couple of hours. We'll also see some high accumulations along the Victorian Highlands region as well over the coming couple of hours. A few storms expected to take hold later on tonight. They're likely to be non-severe for the most part, but we could see some more rainfall there as well across the central parts of New South Wales, extending up into the northern rivers, and areas around Dubbo could pick up an even greater amount of rainfall as well. Heavy falls are going to continue throughout the course of today as well, especially for locations between Sydney and Bega and Mallacoota on the New South Wales and Victoria border, and the heaviest falls are going to be between Wollongong and Ulladulla. Again, they've had the most of the rainfall over the past 24 hours. They've had at least 100 millimetres, some of the weather stations there, and widespread falls between 60 and 100 millimetres there, with another 30 or 40 millimetres on the way. We do have the risk of some minor flooding as well, so if you do live in a flood-prone area, I'd recommend watching the river heights very closely, watching the Bureau of Meteorology's warnings page very closely as well, because there is the chance of some minor riverine flooding later on this afternoon and evening. Just with the nature of this rainfall, it really is piling down now into the southeastern corner of New South Wales. Victoria should escape the majority of it in terms of severe thunderstorms. However, the western half of the state north of Horsam up towards Rainbow and Mildura could see a couple of severe thunderstorms later on this afternoon and evening. It is a bit of a hard sell as to whether or not they will see severe thunderstorms, most likely at around 3 or 4 p.m. The conditions there aren't great, but they certainly are conducive to some thunderstorm activity. A couple of convective blobs there, humidity, temperatures, and convective available potential energy all looking pretty healthy for the chance of thunderstorms in this area here. But I would be surprised if we had a widespread thunderstorm outbreak of severe storms. That would be quite interesting indeed. And just before we finish up with New South Wales and Victoria, I'm keeping it really short and sweet today, or at least in terms of the today weather forecast. We do have to talk about Tasmania as well. There is some heavy falls expected there over the next 24 hours, especially this afternoon and evening. In fact, later on into tonight, into early tomorrow morning, with all this rainfall streaming down and getting jammed up against the high peaks into the Ben Lomond National Park and across the northeastern parts of the state just in general. Some very heavy falls are expected, and communities extending between St. Helens through Bish and O'Coll's Bay down towards Swansea and even down towards Hobart and the Port Arthur region. We could be seeing some very heavy falls throughout the course of tonight into very early tomorrow morning. I mean, it's very rare that we see 3 hourly rainfall accumulations like this, at least for Tasmania, up towards 40 millimetres. That's some pretty heavy rainfall indeed. And if we take a look at the Axis G3, the convective forecast model as well, in terms of the rainfall that's expected there, just a huge amount of the stuff is expected. So we will be waking up tomorrow morning, I can pretty much guarantee it at this time, to rainfall accumulations above 100 millimetres, maybe up towards 150 or 200 millimetres if some areas get really unlucky. I mean, the rainfall accumulations on the forecast here, even though this is a short and sweet kind of rainfall event, you can see the rainfall accumulations still though amassing up towards 150 to 200 millimetres, maybe even slightly more in 1 or 2 locations. So some very heavy falls do look possible at this time. And as we know, with the northeastern parts of Tasmania, it floods really easily. So 100 millimetres will send a lot of rivers up and towards some minor, even the moderate flooding alert. So on the northeast of the state, make sure you are taking extra care on the roads and maybe keep it inside later on today and into tomorrow morning, and make sure you are prepared if you live in a flood-prone area. That's enough in terms of the southern half of the nation. If I have left anything unanswered, then please do let me know in the comment section down below. I'd just like to spend the next couple of minutes talking about the central parts of, or the northeastern parts of New South Wales and into the southeast of Queensland. There's plenty to talk about here as well. Showers and storms expected to pipe up over the coming couple of hours, if they haven't already, into the Brisbane and the Gold Coast area. We'll also likely see showers and storms heavy at times around Grafton, Coffs Harbour, Kempsey, and around 3 or 4 p.m. later tonight, maybe even a little bit later than that. We'll see that rainfall really pick up before it dies down closer towards midnight. Some storms also expected later on tonight along the mountainous regions outside of Brisbane and the Gold Coast, into the hinterland and also up towards Toowoomba and Kingaroy. We could be seeing a couple of storms there, likely non-severe, and the main threat with them is going to be the moderate to heavy rainfall, but again, really nothing to write home about. Tomorrow morning, we're going to wake up to some pretty heavy rainfall across Brisbane and the Gold Coast as well. I mean, taking a look at this here, there isn't too much on the forecast in terms of the heavy stuff, but you can see on the convective forecast model, which is really coming in clutch here for these nitty-gritty showers and storm forecasts. You can see some heavy falls expected into the northeast of New South Wales, and those heavy showers streaming in along the Sunshine Coast and the Gold Coast, and they will likely be, like I said, quite heavy at times and get themselves jammed up into the mountainous areas. We'll likely see some substantial rainfall accumulations throughout early tomorrow morning and early tomorrow afternoon. And in sync with what the Eastern Brief is also saying, we'll likely see a brief thunderstorm outbreak here and there somewhere across the southeastern corner of Queensland, most likely north of Brisbane up into the southern parts of the Sunshine Coast outside of Redcliffe. In this kind of general area here south of Gympie, there will likely be a very isolated thunderstorm outbreak here sometime tomorrow morning into tomorrow afternoon. But again, I really wouldn't bet the house on it. It doesn't look like anything crazy is going to happen. Or later on into the day, actually, there is going to be some substantial thunderstorms blowing up. But the morning outbreak doesn't look to be significant at all. Just a couple of showers here and there before later on this afternoon, which is what I've meant to be talking about. I was getting really confused by the forecast models that completely turned their heads on me. So scratch that. Later on this afternoon, we are expecting a couple of substantial thunderstorms Sunday afternoon around the Sunshine Coast and up in towards the southern parts of the central Queensland coastline outside of Bundaberg, Agnes Water and Gladstone, and a couple of thunderstorms which could be severe at times as well outside of the Brisbane metro area, extending into the northeast corner of Queensland as well, Wollongara down towards Armidale through Glen Innes, Inverell, and even out towards Tamworth. We'll likely see a couple of severe thunderstorms here and there. Nothing crazy though on the New South Wales side of things for tomorrow afternoon at least. The rainfall there will be heavy at times tomorrow morning, but in terms of thunderstorms, nothing too crazy expected. We're expecting those severe thunderstorms to remain in Queensland. And then a bit more of a long-range forecast, at least for Queensland. Nothing crazy, or the southeast of Queensland rather. A couple of storms and a bit of a thunderstorm outbreak expected Tuesday into interior parts of central Queensland, but in terms of the southeast, nothing on the forecast until probably at least next weekend and into early next fortnight. There is definitely rumbles into the early parts of December or into the mid parts of December by the looks of things now, but in terms of significant thunderstorm outbreaks, I'm really not seeing anything on the forecast either. So we will wait and see how this pans out, but again, I wouldn't be getting your hopes up for any substantial thunderstorm activity. Now, I understand if there's been a bit of a confusing segment for the southeast of Queensland, so if I have left your questions unanswered, then please do let me know in the comment section down below, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible, and I do apologise for the bit of a kerfuffle that I had with the forecast earlier on. Now, heading up into the central parts of Queensland, we have a lot to talk about here. Some very heavy rainfall, in fact, some surprisingly heavy rainfall outside of Bowen and across towards, I believe, Ayr. Yeah, Ayr. I really need to polish up on my geography up into the central Queensland area overnight with accumulations in excess of 200 millimetres, much higher than expected. And I mean, we should have seen it coming. Those sea surface temperatures really conducive to blowing up some substantial rainfall and some substantial convection as this rain band streamed ashore. The rainfall now beginning to ease off, but you can see it will still continue and persist throughout the course of today before some thunderstorms pipe up later on this afternoon and evening. But yeah, the rainfall for the most part now about to head offshore, really petering out now across interior parts of central Queensland. But again, overnight some very heavy rainfall, and I imagine it's caught a lot of people off guard. Bowen picking up 73 millimetres, Proserpine 67, Hamilton Island I believe got about 40 as well. Mackay, unfortunately, and down towards some of the communities between Mackay and Ogmore, including St Lawrence and Serena, they unfortunately haven't picked up anything substantial. It's been the further inland locations that have really picked up the rainfall, which is again fantastic to see. Much needed rainfall for them, and even Townsville's also picked up a healthy helping of rainfall as well. A couple of millimetres there, and then further inland out towards Charters Towers, a good 50 millimetres there. So again, some very healthy rainfall accumulations have been reported. Fantastic to see. Much needed rainfall for them. In terms of more rainfall, there is going to be a couple of showers and thunderstorms later on tonight. We really do have a bit of a thunderstorm outbreak on our hands now for central Queensland and into the far north. Not just tonight, but also into tomorrow night. And I've been saying this for the last couple of days. Tomorrow night is going to be an intense thunderstorm outbreak. You can see a lot of thunderstorms expected to pipe up later on tomorrow afternoon and evening. They could be very heavy at times as well across the northern parts of Queensland, with severe thunderstorms expected to drop very heavy rainfall at times across the Atherton Tablelands. Again, much needed rainfall for tomorrow afternoon and evening. Fantastic news for them. Unfortunately, it does look like this forecast, in terms of the rainfall at least, has been back down both today and tomorrow. It doesn't look like the forecast models wish for it to be as intense as what we have been seeing over the last couple of days. There will still be plenty of rainfall to go around tonight, tomorrow night, and into Monday night, but by Monday night, if you haven't received a thunderstorm, it doesn't look like you're going to be getting anything from that point onwards. Unfortunately, it really does look like the rainfall is going to be pretty temperamental here, and it doesn't look like it's going to be very widespread. Not interested in sharing itself around up in the northern parts of Queensland. However, just a bit of a hunch that I've got on this forecast here. It's an interesting one. It's a complicated one as well, so I'm just trying to make sense of what I'm going off here. Thunderstorms are possible down towards Charters Towers, Townsville, Bowen, and Mackay later on tomorrow night as well, but it doesn't look awfully likely. Their round of thunderstorms is going to be tonight, as you saw earlier on, and then Monday night the thunderstorms are going to head further north, be concentrated further up into the Cape York Peninsula. The outside of the Daintree rainforest might get it out towards Elora and Cooktown. They might get absolutely thrashed by thunderstorms on Monday afternoon, but again, really significantly sparsely populated areas of far northern Queensland, and they're not also desperate for rainfall like the Atherton Tablelands are. They're all on water restrictions up there. The dams and rivers running very dry at this time, so the rainfall much needed up there. In terms of the 3-day forecast, it's not looking too pretty anymore for the Atherton Tablelands. I mean, yesterday and in previous video updates, I wasn't promising, but I was saying accumulations up towards 100 millimeters look possible here. But at this time, I think 50 millimeters might be slightly bullish, so that is the bad news for Atherton and Ravenshoe at this time. But still, 50 millimeters is 50 millimeters. It would be a great start indeed. And it's not all doom and gloom either. If I take this forecast out for the full 14 days, take a look at this: accumulations in excess of 200 millimeters across the far northern parts of the Queensland coastline, and then in excess of 150 up towards 200 millimeters across the Atherton Tablelands, and then further inland out towards further remote parts of the Cape York Peninsula. So again, rainfall is not all doom and gloom here, at least over the next 3 days. It's not looking too flash, or not as flash as it once was, but rainfall from that point onwards is looking much more interesting. Let's just zoom out, get a little bit claustrophobic here, and talk about what that rainfall is going to look like. Showers and storms expected to pipe up from an onshore flow from Tuesday onwards. A couple of severe thunderstorms expected interior parts of the Cape York Peninsula on both Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday as well, but they will, like I said, miss the Atherton Tablelands. Showers continuing to stream ashore through Wednesday as well. They'll be light to moderate at times. Before Thursday, they really do pick up a little bit and become a little bit more moderate in terms of intensity. Moderate rainfall also expected throughout Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. The rainfall petering out by Saturday morning, and again, not too much expected through the weekend and into the early parts of next week, before the rainfall once again pipes up under the influence of a bit of an onshore flow that's going to drive ashore, but for the most part, a bit of a low pressure ridge that's going to drag a bunch of moisture down from the Gulf of Carpentaria. And this rainfall here does look like it could be very heavy at times towards the end of next fortnight into the middle parts of December. This rainfall here really looking quite healthy indeed, much more indicative of a wet season kind of forecast. So again, fantastic news for them. The Queensland rainfall for the most part has came through a little bit early. It's kind of mid-December when we do expect the rainfall to really pipe up, and right on cue, far north Queensland is producing, at least on this forecast here, with some good rainfall expected into the middle parts of December. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like the rainfall accumulation forecaster wants to work here, but yeah, some great rainfall does look to be on the forecast. So if you do miss out from the round of thunderstorms expected this weekend, it isn't all bad news. You're definitely going to see something over the next 14 days, and you have every right to get excited for that as well, because it looks like it is pretty much a certainty on the forecast. Unfortunately, with thunderstorms, you just cannot guarantee anything. They're just so unpredictable and so uncertain. Again, around Queensland, if I have left anything unanswered, or if you've got a question or a comment, or a bit of feedback as well with this forecast, then please do let me know in the comment section down below. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. It's been a bit of a detailed forecast update, in fact, a very detailed forecast update for the northern parts of Queensland. So if I have left your head spinning there, I don't blame you. Please do let me know in the comment section down below. But let's head over into the Northern Territory and Western Australia. We have a whole host of rainfall across the northern parts of both states to talk about. The majority of that piping up next week from thunderstorms. You can see definitely moving into a wet phase by the end of next week and into next weekend. And what's this? A low pressure system spinning up offshore from Western Australia. Exactly how the forecast has been going for the last month or so, especially the long range. So we're really going to have to pay close attention to this. The GFS has been spinning this system up for the last month and a half maybe. So again, we really do have to watch this system here. It looks like it is going to be a bit of a certainty now on the forecast, and it's really going to drive those rainfall accumulations up across the West Australian coastline. Unfortunately, it doesn't look look like the ECMWF forecast model can make sense of this system here, at least, or what it wants from it. It does look like it gets to tropical cyclone status at some point, moving away from the West Australian coastline. As we said, most cyclones will be doing that this cyclone season, at least from Western Australia, just considering the nature of this cyclone season. But it looks like we might see another tropical cyclone form off WA waters, this one much closer to home, somewhere in the early parts of next weekend or into the early parts of next fortnight. The GFS forecast model, the other forecast model like the one that I have been suggesting is going to be spinning up this system on the long-range forecast, has called for it to spin up somewhere south of Indonesia, still giving it a chance of becoming a tropical cyclone offshore from Western Australia, but again, much further offshore, and in terms of the rainfall, impact's going to be much, much lighter. So yeah, the ECMWF is certainly going to be a forecast model to watch over the coming couple of days. I'm very interested to see in how this plays out. You can see well and truly driving up those rainfall accumulations from next weekend onwards. Rainfall accumulations just over that week-long period expected to be well in excess of 200 millimetres across parts of the northern Kimberley region. Broome expecting a healthy 100 millimetres, and just from those bands that are going to be driving themselves ashore across Western Australia, some substantial rainfall accumulations also look possible across the Pilbara coast as well, and showers and thunderstorms across interior parts of Western Australia, as you do for this time of the year. Now, I would like to stress that this is not a guarantee on the forecast. It's not even close to being set in stone at this time, still well over a week away from it occurring, but we're going to take detailed looks at this system from every single forecast update going forward now. And if you do live along the West Australian coastline, first of all, hello, good to have you watching again for cyclone coverage, but second of all, this is certainly something that you do want to keep in the back of your head. Now, the GFS long-range model, which is a very reliable forecast model, I would like to stress that, it's got a great track record and it's been calling for this system for a very long time. So again, it does look very certain, and in my mind it is pretty certain that something is going to spin up here, whether it's a tropical low or a strong tropical cyclone. We're just going to have to wait and see. But yeah, certainly something to keep in the back of your head and certainly something to keep watching. Let's dive further south though, down across into the southwest of Western Australia. We'll pretty much cover the entirety of the nation actually if we do cover the southwest of Western Australia, but we do have a couple of storms expected to fire up across interior parts of WA throughout the course of today, and I would like to talk about them just briefly. So it has been a hot stint across the southwest. It didn't get quite as hot as we were expecting yesterday across Perth. My weather station only picked up a top of 31 degrees Celsius, cooled off a little bit by a bit of an ocean breeze, but again, temperatures were expected to go into the high 30s. They really didn't materialise, and that was because of some very significant smoke coverage. We do have a bit of a line of cloud moving in from the Indian Ocean here, and that is expected to spawn a couple of thunderstorms later on this afternoon and evening. A couple of showers already over Meekatharra at this time, nothing too crazy, but still a couple of drops of rainfall, and it will be keeping those temperatures down as well. Unfortunately, no rainfall observations on this map here, but as you can see throughout the course of this afternoon and evening, we'll likely see a couple of thunderstorms fire up into the northern parts of the wheat belt and then into central parts of the wheat belt over the Perth Hills. There is a slim chance of an afternoon shower for the Perth metro area. I think the Bureau of Meteorology is even overdoing it by suggesting that in their own forecast. I think that the chances are, it's probably more likely pigs are going to fly tomorrow, that there is going to be thunderstorms in the Perth metro area. I really don't foresee it happening, but again, we get really excited for them down here, and I know I do have quite a significant amount of Perth viewers, so that will be interested in that. In terms of thunderstorms though, they are going to be over the hills into the wheat belt region, and probably a little bit too far for me to get out and begin chasing later on tonight. I really do have some chasing aspirations throughout the course of this year as well, by the way. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like this is going to be my event, but yeah, plenty of pulse thunderstorms to talk about if you are an avid storm chaser and you're based in the wheat belt, especially in the northern part of the wheat belt. Looks like it's going to be a great day to get out and take a couple of photos of thunderstorms later on this afternoon and evening, just around that golden hour time, because they are going to be at their most intense at around sort of 5 or 6 p.m, which is when that sun is starting to weaken off a little bit, which would be great to see indeed. It's going to be a warm one again across the northern parts of the wheat belt as well, into the high 30s. Or mid to high 30s at the very least. And just before we wrap this video up, it's been a very long one, and I feel like I haven't done enough either for this video update. There's just so much happening around Australia at this time. It's really exciting stuff. I would like to touch on the remnants of ex-tropical cyclone Robyn. Now, if you had an untrained eye and you didn't know exactly what you were looking for, you'd be like, what cyclone? Whereabouts is it? Well, this is the remnants of this system here. Keep in mind, just 24 hours ago, this was a Category 2 strength tropical cyclone on the Australian scale, and really making a run for Category 3 status. So it shows you how quickly these systems can be destroyed when they enter an unfavorable environment, and she is really struggling at this time. Robyn, of course, no threat to land. She's just going to meander across the Indian Ocean over the coming couple of days, finally succumbing in probably around 36 or 48 hours or so. And a remnant low, I mean, it's not even going to be a remnant low pretty soon. It might have a bit of a comeback sometime tomorrow afternoon, but again, not expecting tropical cyclone status. And also, I'd like to note that it'll be well out of the Australian area of responsibility by tomorrow afternoon. So if it does any monkey business out in the Indian Indian Ocean. It's not going to be the Bureau of Meteorology's responsibility. In terms of the Australian weather update, though, that is me done. I think we've pretty much hit more or less everywhere bar South Australia. It's been a detailed pack one, and again, I feel like I have left a couple of locations out, and I do apologise for that in advance. There's just no way for me to include every single thing on the forecast over the next 14 days across Australia. These videos would be well in excess of an hour long. If you feel like I have left anything unanswered, or if your town missed out on coverage, then please do let me know in the comment section down below. I'll not only add you to tomorrow's forecast update, but I'd like to get back to you with your own forecast update as well. So I do thank you for your patience today. Also a bit of a later video as well, because it is just so long. It's taken me so long to record. But that is all from me today. A special shout out to the channel sponsors. Their names are on screen right now, and I could not run this show without them. So again, their support is much appreciated. But that is all from me today, and I'll catch you all in the next storm. Goodbye.